So on Something for the Weekend today, here on Ribble FM, I have a very old blogging friend who has agreed to come on the show. She is promoting her book, but I think it covers an extremely important subject that needs to be discussed. This is Toni Hargis, and she has written a book called How to Stand Up to Sexism, which has been launched this week. So welcome to the show, Toni. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, and first of all, the first question I want to ask you is, why this book and why now?
Ooh, well, two main reasons, I think. I've got an adult daughter, and when all this Me Too business came up again, I started thinking, I can't believe that young women are still having to deal with the stuff that I dealt with, you know, in the 80s, 90s, whatever. So there was that part of it. And then, like a lot of women, I started to think about all the incidents in my own life where, you know, there'd been a bit of sexism or worse. And you know how you go back and you think, oh, I should have said this, I should have said that. And of course, now that I'm decades older, I could have handled all of that. So I have all these not quite fantasy scenarios, but, you know, I just wanted to go back and tell them, you know, what they could do with themselves and all that sort of thing. And I thought, you know, I need to be able to help younger women with my older woman knowledge. And so that was the inspiration for the books. So caring about young women, and also with my what you'd call 20/20 hindsight. You know, as you get older, you do know better, and you care less about what other people think.
Good point.
It was this twofold motivation. So I put pen to paper.
So I wanted to come at this from a family-friendly point of view. Obviously, because we know we have a lot of younger listeners and a lot of families listen to this show, and I think it's just as important to educate the male members of the family as it is to have this language and these responses ready for females to use. And I don't want to bring this into a male, female, whatever. In whatever situation, this advice that you're giving in, or these examples that you're giving in this book, can actually go out, you know, reach out a little bit further, but we are bringing it back into sexism. And I think some of the input you've had from other people has been, you know, sort of like, you've had a lot of people on board with this book, haven't you?
Yes, yeah, so, we have.
So, give me a couple of examples as who has helped contribute to the content.
Well, one of the first people who, and I was reaching out to people cold. I mean, you know, I'm not famous. Yeah, I've written a few books. You know, I've blogged a bit, and I do write, but I'm not famous. So I was just sending out these cold emails. And one of the first people who just jumped right back with a lot of enthusiasm was Victoria Derbyshire. And she's written a review for the back of the book, but she gave me two examples of when she was a younger journalist just starting out, and she wasn't being paid anywhere near the same as the man that she was presenting with, and she just kept asking why. So her advice was, don't give up, keep trying, and know your rights. She's was beating herself up a bit because she didn't realize that what was happening to her was illegal.
Right.
So that was a really important contribution. And I also reached out to a lady called Helen Pankhurst, who was actually the granddaughter of the original Pankhurst suffragettes.
Yeah.
And she was on board yet, so it was really encouraging how many people thought, wow, this is a good idea.
And I think those ripples are important as well, aren't they? Once these people are seen to be responding to a request like that, those ripples, they move out so quickly and they get the right people on board straight away, don't they?
Yeah, I think a lot. I mean, I didn't actually write to people and say, well, I've got Victoria. So, I never mentioned who else was on board. And it was interesting because this book, I cannot believe nobody's done it before. Because how many times have you been in a situation and you just say to yourself, I don't know what to say. You're so shocked by whatever's being said that you're literally left speechless.
Yeah. So I just wanted to say as well, sorry, I know Rowena's going to come in with something there. some of the blurb on the book says, have you ever been left speechless by sexism from, like you say, from classroom to boardroom, social settings, harassment on the streets. And this is about giving, like I said, giving you the tools to have the confidence to deal with this, isn't it? And not necessarily having, sort of like a catalogue of responses, but being able to adapt to the situation to bring the power back to yourself, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's definitely, it's not how to prevent sexism. I want to be really clear about that, because first of all, that's not girls' and women's responsibility. That, we should not be the ones having to prevent the behaviour of somebody else. This is how to deal with sexism when it's already happening. And it's just options. There's no right way. And that's another very, very important message is if you're in a situation and you don't know how to respond, or you kick yourself because you didn't respond, there is no right way to respond, because it's in the heat of the moment. Sometimes you've got job security to think of. Sometimes you've got physical safety to think of. So it's a book full of options, but it's not, you should say this, you should say that. It's just, this might suit you. And sometimes it's just not your style. You'll read one of my options and you think, well, I wouldn't say that. So, but there are a lot of options.
Yeah. Sorry, Rowena, what were you going to say?
Well, no. What I was going to say was that now I grew up in a very traditional household. Dad worked, mum stayed at home and had 2 brothers, and very much grew up with I wasn't allowed to do certain things because I was a girl. Now, fast forward into the age I'm at now, I'm the primary breadwinner. My son is the primary caregiver to their children, to him and his wife's children. And I kind of go, am I living in a bubble that's evolved, or is it really that relevant still? Is there really that level of sexism, or am I just in a very lucky position? I've not seen it at the moment.
Well, I think you just have to look at some of the studies that have been done recently, and looking at what's happened to women during this pandemic. They've been hit by job loss or job reduction, that sort of thing, far more than men have.
I was going to say, just to touch on that as well, it was very much the assumption that women were going to be doing the additional childcare and school and schooling role, and working from home, whilst sort of like that pressure wasn't put on the men as much, I would say as well. So that's a really important thing to point out as well, actually.
Yeah, it's been quite detrimental to working women. But other things that have happened just during the pandemic, unfortunately, is that some women are reporting feeling less safe on the streets because there's fewer people around and therefore fewer witnesses to any kind of harassment. So that sort of thing is definitely still around. There's also the gender pay gap, which, according to some statistics, is going to take 50 years for that to be balanced out. I obviously I haven't been into everybody's homes, and my husband does all the cooking and all the food shopping. So, I might be living in the same kind of bubble, but there's just still a lot of sexism around, unfortunately.
I mean, I'm in a similar position to Rowena. I am, the main, I provide the main source of income for our household and have done for the past 16 or so years. And my husband was the at-home parent when our children were still at school. But I spend a lot of time online. I spend a lot of time on Twitter, and I see the gender imbalance there. And some of it's to do with you'll just put one thing out there and somebody will misconstrue it, not realising that there was either a conversation or, you were coming at it from a different angle. And the nature that is social media, where it picks up in waves. I have seen some people vilified, just for using a certain terminology. And it was like I put a tweet out back in March, I think it was, when the Sarah Everard incident was ongoing. Or, that situation was ongoing. And I said, how many men in my timeline have rung their friend when they've got home from a night out and said, I'm home safe? Have you ever had to feel that way? And I probably had 5 men. You know how active I am on social media, on Twitter and Facebook. I had about 5 men come back to me and say, yes, I do that, or I check up on a friend to make sure they've got home safe if we think they've had too much to drink. And the rest of the men had said, I've never really felt like, felt I needed to do that.
Yeah.
Or if they're stupid enough to put themselves in that situation, then I'm sure they can look after themselves on the way home. And it just showed that, like you say, that imbalance of safety and security. And I know that's not completely where this is coming from, but it's that knowing how to deal with things, isn't it?
Well, and to that point, it's expecting women to solve a problem that's not caused by them. So we're told, don't walk home in the dark, don't run in the dark, keep your keys between your fingers, or all this sort of thing. And so the onus on this problem is put on us, and that's not fair either, which goes back to how this book is not about how to prevent sexism, because I do not think that should be on us.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and I completely agree with you. But like I say, I just want to make sure that I believe this has been recommended reading for sort of like from high school age upwards. For young women to read. And I just want to make sure that people know about this, because it's another option that we can give to our young women, give to our sisters, give to our daughters, give to our granddaughters.
I mean, I'm the mother of a son. I don't have a daughter, but I do have a granddaughter. And yes, she's far too young. She's only 4, so she's not. But I actually think, I really want to educate her growing up that she is as valid as a man, and that if someone does say something derogatory, that she has the capability to deal with it. And I think that's where this book's a great educational piece.
Yeah, I think also what we need to do as grandparents and parents is to let the girls know that you can say something. You don't have to worry about offending somebody else. If they're offending you, then you've got to look after yourself, because that other person isn't bothered about you. You have to look after yourself. You have the right to call out the sexism that's being said or done to you. And I think that even before you get to words, is this sense that we can say, oi, or do whatever it takes to stop the sexism that's happening. And I think even as grown women, we still worry about how it looks, who we're going to upset, even when we're really, really upset. And it's kind of ridiculous. It's just the way we're brought up. And I think we can educate younger girls to just drop that.
Definitely.
And I don't mean to say be horrible to people or don't care about other people, but I think you have to put yourself first sometimes. And we're not very good at that.
No, absolutely.
And sometimes I think that's just women in general. We always tend to look out for others rather than looking out for ourselves. I just want to give a quick run through, because I'm aware we've been talking for a while and I do want to get some music on. But it's like, this is an important subject, like I said at the top of the interview. I think it's something that we need to talk about more, which brings me to the chapters in the book. Give yourself a good talking to. General tips on taking a stand. Sexists what they say, sexists what they do. Sexists how they react. Be an upstander, not a bystander. And then obviously there's some resources in there as well. And I just think that's a fantastic roundup of, it just takes you right from the very start. It breaks it all down. And there's subsections in all of those, under all of those headers as well. And I just, like I say, I just want people to be aware that this book is out there. So Toni, can you let us know how people can get hold of the book? Is it? It's
on everywhere. It's on Amazon. It's on Apple. It's on it's on all the platforms. And you can buy it as a proper book. A proper book. Listen to
a proper book. Yeah. Showing your age now.
Yeah. Or one of those electronic thingies. Yes. So you can buy it. It's all out there, and it's live.
Fantastic. So I am telling you, that's your homework this week, people. Go out and get a copy of Toni's book, and get 2 copies. Get one for yourself and get one as a gift for somebody else.
I was going to say, I think that's the bigger thing with this. This is the sort of book that not only do you buy for yourself, but you give to somebody else to empower them.
Definitely.
I like that idea.
Just to let you know, there is the final chapter about how to be an upstander rather than a bystander is for men. So men and boys, and men are not the enemy in this book at all.
No.
So we want them on board.
Absolutely. So read it, then pass it to the man in your life as well.
Yeah,
whether that be your dad, your husband, your brother, your son, whatever.
I'll give it to my son.
Totally. Well, listen, Toni, thank you so much for joining us today here on Ribble FM. Like I say, what I'll do is what we always do. We will put all the resources for Toni's book and how you can read her blog and some more information about her and how you can contact her on all the social media channels. We'll put that on the Ribble FM Facebook page at about 1:30 after the show, and I'll put some extra information on our own Something for the Weekend Facebook page. But again, Toni, thank you so much for joining us today. Such an interesting subject. I could talk about this for hours, as I'm sure you've just realised.
Thank you both. Thank you.
No, it's absolutely fine. Thank you.